Hi, welcome to 5 Minutes. This time actually direct and live from Latitude. We have with us today James York. James has been with us for almost since the beginning.
Yeah,
and that will be kind of the question. How do you get involved with the Wise Guys, and what did drive you to start mentoring and helping the startups on day one?
So it was actually my first time mentoring. I'd met one of the teams, I think Brickflow, and they'd invited me into the office, and I didn't even really know what Wise Guys was. I thought I was just meeting somebody I'd met in an event, going in and kind of giving some feedback on some business. I was doing business consulting at the time, and right after the meeting, he introduced me to Mike and Chris, and they invited me to mentor, and I've happily been part of the Wise Guys family ever since.
So you are one of these, for us, kind of this link between Estonia and the US. You are married with an Estonian, you be back and forth, you teach in Tartu University.
Yeah, live in New York, yeah.
Have you seen a huge change in this Estonian-US relationship, and how specifically startups look at going to the US market?
So I think already from the beginning of my time with Wise Guys, everybody looks at the UK and the US as the markets where they should go. It's very appealing because it's a single language market. What people don't necessarily realize when they are looking from the outside in is that it is actually 50 different little markets. So it's very similar to the EU in terms of there are nuances to doing business in each particular state. So it's very good not just to look at the US, but what part of the US you really want to focus on, and also what the strengths of the different regions are in relation to the startup and the service that you're actually providing.
So do you, in that sense, do you believe it's Silicon Valley or nothing? Or in
Absolutely
that sense?
not, absolutely not. So I had one investor who invests into Estonia from the States tell me that he very much believes that for Estonian startups, they would rather go to Silicon Valley than heaven. But there's so much happening on the East Coast, especially in New York. It's the second largest ecosystem after Silicon Valley in the States. And the companies, the money, the opportunities, the network is second to one.
Can you be successful in the US without being in the US? How long can you be remotely selling digitally without establishing your presence in the market?
I think that it's very important to get a lay of the land, to understand the culture, the business environment, the rules, the restrictions, the regulations, to understand how people walk, talk, act, and think. Once you've done that, depending on the service, if you're a SaaS, you don't necessarily have to maintain an office in the States, as long as you're walking, talking, and selling like you are. But again, it also depends at what level. If you're something with a relatively low monthly fee, you can probably get away with having a back office in Estonia and just being readily available to your U.S. customers. But if it's something where it's a higher ticket item, or there's a lot of customization, then it really does pay to have somebody natively, locally on the ground who can kind of be the face of business in America for your company, so that the customers and the prospects there feel a certain level of comfort with how they're doing. Because, like you said, Americans, it's a very common stereotype that Americans don't look beyond our own borders, and I don't know that that's necessarily true. But very often, if Americans are not internationally minded, they are more comfortable interacting with other Americans. So having one on your team is a huge asset. The trick is finding one and finding the right one, because Americans are very good salespeople. So you have to make sure they're not selling you on themselves, but actually able to sell.
Not that easy sometimes to differentiate the difference or to spot the difference. Going back to Wise Guys, but you keep interacting with different batches. Have you seen an average evolution of what you see, or it's still very much case by case? So do you notice that the startups that we are recruiting are very different from the ones that you met 5 years ago, or do you see that it's still very different and very random in a way?
I think that there are occasionally teams that come in with more traction than there were, which is very nice to see. But I think that the thing that I love about the Wise Guys teams is that you guys have a knack for finding the most passionate founders, They know what they're doing, they believe in what they're doing, and nothing is going to stop them. And that has been true from the beginning. I think that's kind of like, that's a Wise Guys team.
No, that's very good to hear. I think that's the idea that we, with Herty, and that we have kept alive from the beginning, which is we're founders driven, right? And early stage is all about the team. Everything else can be changed by the team, right? So you get that wrong from the beginning is very difficult. James, just one maybe last statement. If you will have to give an advice to people who are starting to develop their sales strategy and looking internationally as a SaaS business, what will that be? Or what will that pay attention or spend more time doing that most teams do at the beginning?
So when it comes to a sales strategy, and really in terms of anything, I think that the common mistake is that people try and figure out the system or try and scale something before it's ready. It's said in the startup world so often, do the things that don't scale. Yeah. Just keep beating that into your head. It is so important. Because if you don't know what works on an individual one-on-one basis, there's absolutely no way to do it at scale, and you're just gonna be throwing darts blind. The other thing that I will say is that it's very, very important, not just from a sales perspective, but to understand that sales and marketing are two ends of the same spectrum.
Yep.
So you can't really have one without the other, because either marketing doesn't know actually what the customer wants because they don't have sales to talk to, or sales doesn't have the breadth and the reach that they need that they could get through marketing. So it's very, very important to keep these two functions very, very symbiotic, and not separate them, and not think that you can just hire a sales guy or just hire a marketing guy.
Will you keep them in the same person at the beginning?
If you can find this purple squirrel, it's great. But usually these skill sets are in different people. So finding, I think, a sales and marketing team locally will be much more effective than finding just a sales rep.
Okay, James, thank you. Not only for the 5 minutes, but for the last 6 years of ongoing collaboration.
My pleasure.
I thought there will be 6 more. If you haven't noticed, look at James' socks. He's always on brand with us. So thank you very much. Enjoy. Thank you.